There we go. Dave, that of course means it's news time again. We've had a couple of folks here who were in charge of going through a lot of news. Make the introductions on the next one.
Well, we don't need to introduce her. Everybody knows Jami Jones by now, but if you don't, she is the Landline Managing Editor, and she focuses on trucking issues and covering trucking for as long as the FMCSA has been around. That's a pretty good landmark, Jami. Good morning.
Oh, good morning. I love you guys. Thank you for the, oh my gosh. And can we circle back to tariffs just real quick
Sure.
on one point? So, when ages ago we were going with Mexico trying to get a cross border trucking program for long haul, and that never really it's a thing, but it's not a thing anyway. Oh my gosh, Peter DeFazio was one of the biggest opponents of this on the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. He was so adamant, and Mexico slapped tariffs on Christmas trees because he was from Oregon. And oh my gosh, tariffs are used as a weapon. And I will never say that he caved, because I do feel like he was a strong proponent for trucking, but his home district was hit hard by this. And so, never forget that tariffs are a weapon. And that's what people need to understand. And they do cripple economies when they are targeted the way they are. So, it is what it is. We don't know what the fallout's going to be right now. I actually am working from home today because I'm waiting on a new TV that I got because of pre-buys tariffs for super cheap. So anyway,
by this TV, whether I need it or not.
Well, I
know.
Porch Pirates to get my TV, so I'm upgrading. That's all we're saying. So
taking the last train to London, as they say. This is it, man.
Absolutely.
This is my last shot to get those deals, right?
Yeah, I did, and I scored, and it's worth a day from home. And Oliver, the trucking dog, is very happy that I'm working from home today. So
I saw that great picture of you, by the way, on that you sent to me of you and the pup doing a little bit of an interview on that, which will not be named. But I want to kind of talk about, and you and I had talked about this, and I told Dave it's what we'd be kind of digging into. So there's been a lot of talk of DEF, a lot of talk about what the policy looks like, a breakdown of the policy. The 30,000-foot macro view of what changing the policy on DEF is. And I'll let you explain a little bit of that. But what you really wanted to talk about is the anecdote, not the anecdote, but the anecdote, the personal stories of the men and the women and how they're being affected. So I'll kind of let you set up tariffs. I'll kind of let you set up DEF, and then let you pivot into the more specifics of what this means for the bottom line for the men and women who are owner-operators and the individual drivers.
Well, and I thank you, Dave, for teeing up. I've been around trucking since 2000. That's when FMCSA became an agency. So I've got a little bit of history here, and everybody likes to give me crap in morning meetings when let me give you a little history lesson. But this one's important because trucking has always been viewed. Truckers and trucking have, they're the big bad bullies on the playground, if you will. And apparently they have tons of money too. Which I think that could be misinterpreted. But we go back to 2002, the 1002, the October 2002. the OEMs were not complying with then emission regulations on NOx, nitrogen oxide. So to penalize them, instead of making them comply in 2004 when they were supposed to, they made them, do this pre-thing. So we have forced OEMs since, early 2002. We have forced them to put engine configurations in place that weren't sustainable. The 1002 engines, they were melting everything from the window washer fluid, plastic containers, to the hoses. I mean, they literally nobody runs a 1002 engine anymore. Period. Full stop. So 04, then we get that going, and supposedly we've got that straightened out. No, it wasn't straightened out. And so what smartly did the government do? They threw the 07 standard on there. The engine manufacturers barely were able to keep up with it. And we had all of these men and women who were having to buy trucks or whatever and try and keep them on the road. And then we get to the 2010, and that's when let's go after particulate matter, and let's throw, decent particulate filters and EGRs in there, and let's, DEF and everything else. It's just like there was this point that never made sense to me, that why are we preying on trucks that are literally cleaning the air in, very, they call them high attainment areas, LA, the orange dome, but when your truck is literally pulling air in that's dirtier than what you're putting out the tailpipe, why is trucking the problem? And that's where it really comes down to. And then it comes down to who funds that, and it's the men and women who drive those trucks every day to provide for their families.
I want to ask Dave a question here, because what Jami has kind of outlined here is a sense of in terms of trucking, or in terms of business cycles, fast and furious in regards to upgrades. 2002, 2006, 2007, 2010, in regards to upgrading your truck. Do you have any sense of that when you were doing on the other platform the phone calls about that, or was it coming so fast and furious at people, Dave, that they almost didn't have time to respond? By the time they got their throat cleared about what they wanted to say about one thing, the next thing was on top of them. What was your experience with all of these rapid fire changes that Jami's talking about?
Well, and to your point, Jami, the promise is always, and I mentioned this earlier, you and I'm sure you can relate to this too. When ultra low sulfur diesel came out, and the sulfur being the lubricant, then all of these tiny little O-rings started to fail. And when the O-ring fails, the engine fails. And it was a rush to judgment, so to speak. Let's rush this out before it's ready. And there's that. Biodiesel to some degree was the same. I mentioned John Houslawton from the Minnesota Trucking Association called me early on and said, hey, you know what? This stuff is freezing. Okay, so there's that. So we keep making those same mistakes over and over again. And I remember back when the diesel particulate filter, the DPF, came out, I went to a big OEM unveiling. We were all together, big press thing. And yeah, you remember that. And we watched the guy take the unit off the frame and then put it back on in about 20 minutes or so. This is how easy it is to do that. And then we all got on the ladders with our handkerchiefs. I still have mine in a good old King Edward cigar box. And that handkerchief was as pure as the driven snow. And they said, well, smell it. And it smelled like you just ironed it. It was beautiful. Yet, to your point again, and then DEF came out, and then we found out, well, guess what? That stuff freezes. So now we have heaters in the little tanks. And so we went from melting tanks to freezing tanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so this roller coaster ride, this tumbling that we do with this rushing stuff out, the whole thing about carb, and the problem is that we all are trying to get to the same place, but we can't get there at the same time if it's going to work.
Well, and I think time is that's a great point, because that's what matters, because I don't think any of us would deny being stewards of the earth. I do my recycling. I do everything I can to make sure that, I take care of, my planet, because, this is our home. But time, you cannot rush engineering. You cannot rush science. These guys are trying just as hard as everybody else to accommodate these restrictions, but when you throw them under the bus, just like anything else, sorry, it's not going to work. It just flat doesn't work, and that's what we're running into, and that's why this rollback on this DEF D rate is so important. And it's not that it's the end all be all, but hey, it's a start.
The other thing is too I want to ask Dave a real quick question, and then I'm going to ask you both a question. The other thing is too, the sulfur thing, Dave. Was that because sulfur was acting as a protectant, stopping that stuff from deteriorating? What was
Well, it was the lubricating.
Yeah.
And they didn't think we got to replace that with something.
Yeah.
So until they had to replace it with something.
Yeah, so they didn't do the math, meaning they didn't realize that, that's there and it's got its own set of problems, but without it, these problems kind of arise. I wanted to make sure I was clear on that. The other thing is, too, is that what we're talking about here is the same thing happens as happened before. It just takes longer to happen, and you have warning. Am I understanding that correctly about what's happened here in regards to this? It's like, look, at some point you will shut down, but it won't be the blink of an eye, and it won't backflip you like the Joker's truck in Dark Knight Rises. The Dark Knight. You won't go airborne all of a sudden. Not that you do, but you know what I'm saying here is that a lot of the surprise has been taken out of this equation with this announcement. Is that a fair assessment, Jami?
I 100%. I was actually just looking at the article. You have 650 miles to figure out it once you throw a code or whatever related to your DEF or you're out of diesel exhaust fluid or whatever. You have 650 miles. That's a pretty fair start. And then it's just a 15% torque reduction. So unless you're in the mountains, for the most part, that shouldn't be a problem. But, the whole thing is, are we truthfully ready fully for this technology? We've been suffering through for 15 years. It's gotten better. I don't know, Dave. Dave, you've been around this stuff a lot longer than I have. There comes a point where when is enough enough?
Well, okay, and I'm going to change lanes here, not gears so much, but lanes, and kind of circle back to something that evidently people just don't want to hear about. And it's your point. The trucks we have on the road right now are putting out cleaner air than they're taking in. Whoa, what's
Yeah.
wrong with that picture? What is wrong with that picture? Okay. So, why don't we have more of those? Well, because one of the reasons is folks can't afford them. Why? Because of the World War One excise tax that's adding about 25 now, maybe even 30,000. I don't want to go overboard. I'll just say 20 to 25,000 more dollars to purchase the truck. Let's get rid of that tax and more people can buy the cleaner truck. And guess what? The air will get cleaner. I mean, come on, right? You don't need to
Yeah, I
reinvent
mean,
this wheel.
They're not incentivizing it. Is what
Yeah.
they're doing. They're not.
Yeah.
They're not making an. I mean, Marshall Platter just commented: arbitrary dates to accomplish pie in the sky goals are always going to fail. Absolutely. So make them non-arbitrary in the sense of doing everything you possibly can to limit every other cost on a trucker and the people who run these companies to make sure that they can actually divert the resources necessary without it being an additional hit on their revenue. Is that what is that what you're saying here, guys?
Well, okay, and Jamie, you take it from here, but I'm just going to say something. There's a game you can play, and it's not a bad game. I need that on Tuesday. You don't really need it till Thursday, but if you don't say Tuesday, you won't get it till Wednesday. You know what I mean? That game. I think that's the game we're in. Okay, so California says we need to stop selling anything that's not electric
By
by
2035.
Okay, that's wonderful. But don't take it seriously. Just have that as a goal, not as a mandate. There's that word again.
well, and electric it really brings up a sore subject
Oh
for
my
me.
God, right? So where does the electricity come from?
Seriously. So what was it? 3 years ago, Houston froze,
Yeah,
and everybody was like burning their furniture. It was like 3 years ago, I think.
yeah.
Kansas City, where I live, we had rolling blackouts during that time to ship electricity to Houston.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that we're going to put a fleet of trucks? I mean, we have written stories. My team is so good about finding stuff like this. Seriously, there was a refuse company that they were going to go all electric on their trucks, and the city that they worked in and serviced, they were like, okay, here's what we need. And they said, yeah, that's more than the entire town takes in electricity.
Mm-hmm.
You want more than that to power a fleet of trucks. We can't do that. And and so you see these things, and Sean Duffy has been so he's so pro trucker, and I love it. But this latest thing on the electric infrastructure, I have serious qualms about how that's going to play out, because when my electricity in Kansas City gets shut off for 2 hours in the dead of winter, so that Houston can get some power.
Wasn't that about
I
a
have
4-day event in I don't remember.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. About
Yeah,
a year
Jamie
later.
remembers exactly how many days it was.
Yeah.
it was literally almost a week.
Okay.
I mean,
4 days. The refineries were hit too, and so I get this story from Maine. We can't paint lines on the road because we don't have any paint. Why don't you have any paint? Well, the refineries shut down in the freeze for 4 days.
yes,
And it was like a year later.
yeah. And so, but I mean, the full circle of it all is, why are you picking on truckers? You don't even have the rest of your shit together. I'm sorry, but that's literally what's going on.
Well,
They don't have their stuff together, so but we're going to keep putting these mandates on truckers, and finally we get some relief on one. But let's back the truck up some more.
Well, could it be as simple as something that I've been saying, Jamie, for 50 years? The bigger the target, the easier it is to hit. And who's the big target on the road, right? Oh, it's got your TV in it. It's got my sausage in it. It's got my new bike in it. But it's a big target, and I don't know what's in those trailers. Yeah.
Hey, where's my cheap goods? Where are my cheap goods? Pull over on the side of the road, get in a violation. Get over yourself and keep on working. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's really what it kind of comes down to a lot of the times. And we're gonna keep on going over this and over this and over this until somebody says we're gonna have a carb-free environment, by 2035, and then says, and here's how we're gonna do it, and then proceeds to show how people are going to be subsidized, how people are going to be given tax relief, that this is going to go on and on and on. It just feels like there's a stacking thing going. When I was listening to you guys talk, I keep thinking about the fact that they continue to want to move forward despite the fact that they have tripped on every step along the way. And maybe it's about time to walk back down the stairs and figure out another way to climb, is kind of what I'm hearing from you, Jamie.
Yeah, and I love the fact that I've been able to be a part of the history of all this. But Annette Sandberg, who was one of the first administrators of FMCSA, I had the privilege of having her exit interview, if you will. And she even said, I'm handing off my keys as I walk out the door after this interview. But she said something to me that I don't think people appreciate, especially regulators, legislators, anybody who in authoritative roles, the authority, if you will.
Authority.
Yeah. It's the pace of regulations. You cannot put something in play and then throw 5 more on behind it immediately until you see what the first one did. And this is what has happened with everything emission related to trucking. So, we really need our governing bodies to understand you have to give engineers, you have to give the people of science, you have to give the people of everything a chance, a fighting chance to actually do what you want to accomplish, but give them a fair amount of time to do it. And that's not what we did. And we've never done that. And this is just a walk back. Thank you. Thank you for the walk back. Give people a chance.
Jamie, we got to walk this back now because we are out of time. Jami Jones, of course, is the managing editor over at Landline, joins us on a regular basis. We got her in for a full half hour for a change, as opposed to the the cauldron that often is Nemo Nation. It's good to have you, my friend. Any big stories you got coming out? You literally have like 15 seconds. What you got coming out?
Dude, I got a new TV coming to my house. That's the biggest news I got going right now.
Yeah, I'm going to go try to see if I can pick up
the team's working hard at the office. So
Team's working hard because Mama needs a new television set. Get out of here. Our favorite mama of all time, Jami Jones, has joined us this morning. Well, my mama and Dave's mama. We got a couple of mamas. They're all in the top 5 since college football starting. Jami's in the top 5. We love you, sister. Come on back sometime soon. Thank you, Jami Jones. Always good hearing from her.